Markets Now is brought to you by the 5-year anniversary of Brevant Seeds. Here's to 5 years of not just winning, but collecting one game-changing W after another. See all of our wins at brevant.com/wins.
And welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rourke with Joe Kooima of Kooima Varilek, and we're seeing green on the board except for the corn market this morning. And so, Joe, let's start off with cattle like we normally do on Monday. We're trying to rebound today and recover after a couple of lower weeks. Do you think we can continue to recover here, I guess?
Oh, thanks for having me on this morning. And yes, the great question to start. This volatility is kicking in high gear, kind of on a little bit of a lower market here the last few weeks. Like you said, it's been a while since we've had lower weekly close, let alone having two in a row. And this one from last week was exceptionally poor. I thought, some of these charts on the feeders looked very poor, kind of taking out some new lows for the move. And today we're crawling back aggressively. I mean, we opened up and feeders were $2 higher than where we closed on Friday. Fat cattle were $1.50 just right out of the chute at 8:30. So once again, having a lot of fast markets in the first couple minutes of trade. So we'll see once if I'm a little skeptical, put it that way. The funds have come out of a lot of positions the last several weeks, so they're not there necessarily to defend their position like we saw the last 9 months. They're kind of just saying, okay, get the market to this price, we're out. We're just going to kind of take our money and kind of sit on the sidelines a little bit. But a very valiant effort so far this morning. We've seen this before the last several weeks where you can have this intraday strength. And it kind of fades just a little bit. So there's a little twist on some of that intraday trade compared to what it was 3 or 4 weeks ago. Usually when that market decided, right, this is low enough for the day, it just trekked higher and it finished that way. But we're seeing some different closes, kind of just mixed closes in that capacity there.
Yeah, and we took out those 20-day moving averages, which triggered a lot of liquidation, or at least some sell stops were tripped at those levels. So those are going to be key to get back above, or what?
For sure. Yep. That was kind of, you look at the chart this whole year, and that 10-day was kind of significant, but the 20-day was exceptionally significant. That anytime it got to that level, the funds would defend it. They would push it back higher, but we saw some closes below those last week. We kind of traded inside that 10 and 20, or the 20 and 40-day. A lot of it. And Friday, we started taking out some of those 40-day moving averages. So then you saw some more, maybe some outside selling as well, but the funds definitely probably kicking out a lot more with their positions once we had a close below that.
Yeah, a lot of rumors moving the market, though, aren't there?
Terrible. A lot of them. Friday had a report that Secretary Rollins was going to be traveling to Oklahoma to discuss, some new, not new stuff, but just general screwworm stuff, I guess. And I don't know how much more it could be really retracted from a month ago. So it was kind of odd. But the feeders moved higher in the morning with that, then they faded as the day went on once more people started to talk about it. And I think that's why we're highly or aggressively higher this morning too, because nothing was really said at all over the weekend. So yeah, some of this headline stuff it makes your head spin quite a bit, and the market moves in a direction quickly with it.
Yeah. The other thing that we've been watching is the cash market. This has been a cash-led rally, and we have seen some cooling in the north, haven't we?
Certainly so. We're getting outpaced by the south right now, which makes complete sense. The last 9 months, they've had placements below 85, 80%. And this is a time of year where those numbers should be fat. So they are definitely going to take some leadership here with the cash, and we saw that last week at 240, a few dollars lower than the week before. The cash in the north was a big struggle for 2 weeks in a row, especially last week. The volume was extremely light. So we're gonna, not like we're building a huge show list up here in the north by any means, but this would be the first week in quite some time that we had this much of a follow through as far as carrying cattle into the following week. We just couldn't hit our number that we wanted to at all. And I think guys are saying, well, we'll just wait till next week. We got cheap feed. We'll kind of make them a little bit big. Our cheapest inventory that we have is in the yard, because some of these break evens on these feeder cattle are still relatively high. I mean, that's cooled off to a certain degree too, but the board breaking as much as it did, it doesn't make these break evens look any nicer right now. So let's be smart a little bit. Let's not have 2 weeks in a row where we carry cattle into the next week. So just that's kind of a caution sign, a little bit of warning sign out there. We don't want that to happen at all.
Right. We do normally expect a little bit of weakness in the cash feeders just because numbers pick up this time of year. Is that right?
Yep. You look at some of your seasonal stuff, and both the feeders and the fats kind of, for the first time in a while, actually directed off of that just a little bit. But yeah, we're anticipating a few more numbers in the runs, and it doesn't take that much. It's still going to be tight. There's a lot of tight numbers out there. It's going to be that way for a long time. But if we change that status quo of how tight things are to less tight, the market's going to react to that aggressively.
Right. All right. Hogs getting a little help again this morning, spillover from the cattle market, but that market on its own has been up into new contract high areas. Are funds going to keep pushing this thing? Is there a fundamental reason to keep this going?
That's a great question. That open interest has been nice to write down every morning with these hogs, and it's just trending higher, making new contract highs, and that just invites the funds to buy more and more and kind of push that trend higher. This is a time of year where that October likes to try to meet or get closer to that index, and that index has just hung out very well because our cutout and cash have stayed pretty good. We lost a little momentum on the cash the last week and a half or so, but that cutout stays pretty tuned at 113, 114. So that October's coming up to that index finally. And the fundamental question too is, yeah, we're still dealing with a tail end of the big disease issue that we had 6 months ago. So I would imagine that the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're probably still going to see this 2 to 2.5% less kill compared to a year ago. I don't see anything to change it right now. A few producers have been saying that it's pretty easy to get hogs in to the packers, so that's always encouraging when I hear that as well. So it's got the green light is on right now. But it's a very overbought market too. So I am kind of looking at this February and April hogs for next year, that our production by then I think is going to be back fully online. I don't think we're going to be killing less than a year ago. So with this rally, with the funds pushing act and December higher, I think we need to put our hedging hat on for Feb and April.
Yeah. You think October, we're getting close to 100 here?
That's a good price. And if February up to 92, 93, 94, yeah, that's a big price. I'm not saying it's high. I'm just saying it's a big price. And I think some put options out there are outstanding.
Let's talk about grains. Corn lower this morning. I don't know if that's just some profit taking after the update on Friday, but then you have soybeans to the plus side. My question there is, are we trading a little China optimism?
I think we're getting a little bit of that. I'd be careful with some of the headlines about China. There doesn't ever seem to be a whole lot of follow through. It might be one-sided. There's a deal struck over here, but there's no confirmation over there. But I think a lot of this kind of stems off of how the charts are looking right now. The funds have been buyers. They didn't carry a real big short position of beans. And I think they're big, net buyers of 7,000 on Friday. And with today's action, I would imagine they're about neutral with that. But I think there's a lot more to this rally the last several weeks. It kind of stems off of the report on Friday. It's a report that the USDA typically doesn't change a whole lot. They'll kind of punt into the next one. So at least reflecting the idea that the price moved for a reason and they lowered the yield slightly, not enough compared to where the guesses were. But I think that's just showing the trend moving forward that, this crop probably had a high benchmark and we're going to be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, and we obviously got a little help from that same idea that corn yields were coming down to push the corn market higher on Friday, but now we're kind of up into some resistance, aren't we, on a chart?
We're getting a little bit overbought. Yep. 100-day there for the corn, I think, is right around here. So if you can have a close above that, that would just add more fuel to the funds, and the bean charts looking like we just had a little break here and starting to form an uptrend. To me, you can kind of draw the line off that low 6 weeks ago to the low a few weeks ago, and you're starting to see these charts look a lot different.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much, Joe. Joe Kooima with Kooima Varilek. That is Markets Now.
When you choose Brevant Seeds, you don't just win. You win so big, the very ground beneath your feet cries tears of joy. You win so big that second place feels like a participation trophy. You win so big, you might as well be harvesting buried treasure. Oh, sorry, just one more. When you choose Brevant Seeds, you don't just win. You hit the damn jackpot. Don't just win. Talk with your retailer or visit Brevant.com/jackpot to get started.